All right, we are live. This is UFC 301 live recap show on sherdog.com. We believe this is the deepest recap show there is in the entire world. I am your host. My name is Keith Shillan. Joining me, as always, is the senior editor of sherdog.com, the great Ben Duffy. Ben, how you doing, man?
I'm doing really well. I rolled back into town from the great state of Georgia at about midnight, 1 o'clock Saturday morning. I know it's Sunday morning now for some people. Got a little sleep, watched some fights, and hell if there isn't a whole lot to talk about.
It would have been an even cooler story if you said you came in from Georgia, the country.
Georgia, the country. That would have been cool.
Out Marab
I'd have a different hat on. I'd have like the brown papaja type hat. Like, yeah, that'd be cool too.
Well, I'm glad you made it. I hope you had a good time with family. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We'll try to get to as many comments as possible. We have 13 fights to talk about. Went down in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. I would try to speak Portuguese, but I know Ben would do much better than I can. Wasn't the best card on paper, and we'll get to the grade later on. But I think it was overall, like, the action was a pretty good card.
Agreed. Yeah, a few surprises, a little bit of controversy, the things that give us something to talk about, some very good fights, and not too many terrible ones. It was a good card. It's not going to go down as the best pay-per-view card of the year. It won't even be on the medal platform, but it's not going to be the worst pay-per-view card this year either. Like, this was a good, fun card. I mean, we'll do a letter grade at the end, I know, but delivered more than it promised on paper.
Yeah, and if this is the worst one, then we're in for a really good year. Let's get right into it. Main event, we had Alexandre Pantoja defending his undisputed flyweight title against Steve Erceg. They were kind of booking this as a Rocky story, and we might have got a Rocky 1 type situation. For those, spoiler, for those who've never watched Rocky, I'm about to spoil it right now. You might want to mute for the next 30 seconds. I think the movie came out almost 50 years ago. So I think you had a little bit of time. Alexandre Pantoja won a unanimous decision over Steve Erceg. In Rocky 1, Apollo Creed was this decorated champion who gave basically an unknown fighter from Philadelphia named Rocky Balboa a title shot. No one gave Rocky a chance. He went the distance with the champion, but he didn't win. He actually lost a split decision. And this might be what we kind of had tonight, where Pantoja wins. And again, it wasn't a split decision. But I'll tell you right now, I feel like if I watch this fight 10 times, I might score it 5 times for Erceg. It was that close.
It was extremely close. In the moment, I scored it for Pantoja. I gave him rounds 1, 3, and 5. But 2 of the rounds were almost complete toss-ups, and one of them was pretty debatable. So,
yeah, that's exactly how I scored it. I tweeted out heading into the 4th round. Heading into the 5th round. Like, it could be 2-2. It could be 3-1 Pantoja. It could be 3-1 Erceg. I think so I also scored exactly the same way. I scored it 48-47 for Pantoja, but I have no issue with anybody giving Erceg. The problem is, and we'll get into the rules in a second, is, the first criteria is damage. Well, what does that mean? What does damage actually mean? Does damage mean a cut? If it means strictly like you drew the most blood, then
Erceg wins in a landslide.
Like he wins the 3rd round and the 5th round. 2 rounds that we thought were toss-up rounds, he wins.
Yeah.
I don't think that's exactly what damage means, because if you punch me in the face 100 times and I punch you once, and that one is a glancing, shot at elbow or something, catch you perfectly and cut you, it's not the same as you bouncing my head off the mat with ground and pound, but just doesn't happen to cut me.
Completely agree. And we talked about this just 2 weeks ago. Unsuccessful submission attempts don't always leave a mark, but they absolutely count as damage. They take something out of the fighter who had to defend. Yeah, not all damage is equally visible, which is one of the things that makes judging difficult.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's like we've talked about this a million times, but it was significant strikes. And when someone talks to me, this guy landed 48 significant strikes, the other guy's 45. I'm like, that's not all significant strikes are the same. But anyways, let me ask you this question. So we both gave it to Pantoja. We'll get into the individual rounds in a second, but is Steve Erceg the second best flyweight in the world?
I think a lot of it comes down to matchups, but you can make a good case for it. I can't think of anyone that I would say, oh, that guy's absolutely better than Erceg. Not Moreno, not Perez, not Royval, not Kopp, not Albazi. Like Erceg is at least in the picture there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you're right. Like styles make fights. You know, one big thing that Erceg had, huge advantage he had on Pantoja. Pantoja is not one of the bigger flyweights. I mean, I know he cuts a lot of weight, but he's not like tall. Where Erceg is huge. Like he wouldn't have the same reach advantage if he went against like a Brandon Royval or something like that. But who am I favoring over him moving forward right now?
Well,
I don't know.
Here's the thing, let me just throw this out there. One thing that Erceg has got going for him, aside from the size and the surprising power, is he is a disciplined striker in a division full of reckless guys at the top. And he's already capable of making opponents pay for reckless behavior. He did it to Pantoja a few times tonight. If he did it a few more times, maybe we have a new champ. But that's going to play well for him against a lot of other guys in the division. And it's ironic that the only other guy in the top 10 or 15 I can think of who has that same thing going for him is his countryman, Kai Kara-France. Erceg might turn into a slightly bigger, more athletic Kai Kara-France type. And Kara-France has spent a good amount of time orbiting around the title picture.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get right into the individual, and we'll get into some technical stuff. First round was obviously so the first round and fourth round to me were clear rounds. The first round, Pantoja won. The fourth round, Erceg won. I was shocked at how, and we'll get into the comments. I'm not one of these guys. I don't really. We always talk about the commentator, but we don't beat up like other people do. No. But I was a little surprised at how surprised Felder and DC was at Pantoja taking the fourth round off. And I'm like, yeah, that's what he does in every fight. He did it against Brandon Royval. He did it against Brandon Moreno. He takes rounds off to conserve energy. Pretty does that. Jose Aldo did that in prime time. It's just something he does. So he gave that round to Erceg. Was it wise? Maybe it helped him get the fifth. Maybe, or he's getting told by his corner he's up 3-0. So maybe he's taking that strategy, saying, hey, I can take this off, then I can press hard the fifth, and I might gassed out at the end. I don't know. The only it worked out for him, but the first round, what makes Pantoja so tricky is you kind of have three options when you strike with Pantoja, because Pantoja sits back, then he bursts in and he throws combinations. And I've said this on the previous show. I'm going to continue to say this. He is such an underrated striker. He is such a better striker than he gets credit for, because his ground game is so amazing. It overshadows his striking. But you really have three things you could do, and Erceg was struggling with this. The first thing is, drop your hands to block the takedown coming in. And the problem with that, you do that, and he doesn't go for the takedown. He starts throwing strikes at your head. Like he kept throwing this like overhand right that was landing. You get punched in the face. All right. Option two is you bring your hands up to block the punches in the face, or you slip in your head or something like that. You go on the striking defense, and now he follows it. He's so good at throwing high, realizing you're going to block, and he just like almost knocks himself over into your legs, and he finishes the takedown.
Yes.
Or three, and this is where Erceg had the most advantage, which is really the more gutsy of all of them, is try to time him coming in with strikes. It's the best offensive thing to do, and you could hurt him. And when he really started throwing elbows and stuff, it was really damaging. It was really impressive. But on the flip side, if you really open up with your strikes timing, it actually opens up the takedown even more, because they can drop down even easier to get underneath. that's what gets so tricky. And once he takes you down, I mean, it's a wrap. The round is over.
I agree. It's surprising to me how well Erceg did on the ground. I mean, absolutely, Pantoja had the advantage. Erceg was on the defensive every time they went to the ground. Initiating the ground game in the 5th round may well have cost Erceg the fight. So I'm not saying he even held his own, but I was surprised at how well he did. He escaped some perilous situations. He avoided any seriously locked-in submission attempts. He did about as well as I would have expected him to do on the ground against Pantoja. So in a division where, as somebody pointed out, and I want to give credit, Luke Wilson, this is a division where you have to be well-rounded. That's a good sign. If you're looking at Steve Erceg as a future possible champ or, title contender.
Yeah.
Just real quick. I love fighters who are prepared. I love fighters who either they or their camp or a combination of both have clearly done study on the other fighter, know what they're going to do, and have prepared specifically for it. One of the kings of that is Robert Whittaker, where you could tell that he and his camp have worked out specific wrinkles for each opponent. Here, Erceg, I mean, the whole Pantoja attack that you basically described there, where there's, the multiple outcomes, Erceg clearly knew that that's what was coming and was prepared for Pantoja crashing the pocket. Intercepting him with elbows is something that, I mean, he may have made the decision and the adjustment on the fly, but I think that's more likely something they drilled. And that just always makes me happy. And his takedown defense improved from round to round. I think all 3 of Pantoja's first serious takedown attempts, Erceg defended with more or less the same whizzer. First time, it didn't work. The second time, it kind of delayed the takedown where Pantoja had to readjust a couple times. Third time, it worked. And Erceg got up, danced away. Pantoja was a little slow to go after him. And I was thinking, man, if Pantoja's getting tired and Erceg can shrug off the takedowns from here on out, we might have a new champ. Like, this was just so much good stuff happened in this fight.
Yeah. So one thing about there's so much to unwrap there because you gave me so much and I don't even know where to start.
Sorry.
No, it's good stuff because I mean I feel like we can talk about this fight. This is a fight that I feel like the goodness of MMA just mixed in because we had so many levels. We had striking, we had grappling, we had reversals, we had blood, we had clinch battles, we had strategy against the fence, like so much groin strikes where I don't want to stop because I feel like he's getting tired. There was 2 moments that was really impressed me with both guys. At one moment, exactly what you just said, like where now Erceg started stops on takedowns. He's forcing Pantoja on his back foot. Pantoja's looking tired as he always has. I actually said this on the previous show. He's a king of like looking tired but not really being. And I thought of the early in the fight, the Barbosa fight, the female fight, Diane Barbosa and the swimmer.
Ernesto Carrascaide.
Yeah. And I was thinking about the end of that fight where Barbosa was so desperate to get the fight to the ground, she couldn't get it down. And, even their bodies, like, shorter one, long, lengthy one, where now she's picking her up from range. And a part of him, he goes, oh, wow, this is going to turn into that for the rest of the fight. And then I said, no, it won't. It's Pantoja. Like he will find a way. Like maybe he doesn't blast through the hips, but he'll find a way to create scrambles and get it down. That's what he did, and then he did. So that was something that really impressed me in Pantoja. And guys, we're not bearing the lead. We'll get to the 5th round soon. Don't worry. But on the flip side, a thing that really impressed me with Erceg after the first round. Think about it, you've been in the UFC less than a year. The storyline in this one is, who the hell is this guy? And obviously the people listen to this show and we know who he is, but the casuals don't know who this is. That was like kind of the UFC was even pumping that storyline, which I actually thought was pretty clever. Like, why don't fake it? Like, work with that. You're in his home country. They're and you're going to die and all this. You're facing the champion. You clearly lose the first round, and he got up, and he didn't look frustrated at all. He seemed comfortable, and I'm like, this moment isn't too big for him.
No,
and that's what was really impressed me. I was like, wow, like so many people would have caved then, and we would have had like like kind of Brandon Royval in his last fight against Pantoja. Big moments where he's frustrated and he gets to his corner and he's slouching his head. And we didn't get any of that with Erceg. He was talking to his team. He was communicating. He was super comfortable. The moment didn't get to him.
No. And you can tell that is part of his native temperament, because after the third round, his corner told him that he's probably down 3-0. If you're the kind of fighter whose confidence and self-esteem are kind of brittle, if you need your handlers to kind of gas you up, they don't tell you something like that. They tell you, oh, you're up 2-1, but who knows what these crazy judges are going to do. He's getting tired. No, they told him flat out, you're probably down 3-0. You need to do this, this, and this. Yeah, it's the sign of a confident guy who was not overwhelmed by the moment.
Yeah, we'll get into the coach in a second, because they both were saying the same thing, and I actually think both guys were giving their cornermen, they're giving their fighters wrong advice. But we'll get to that in a second. The thing that stood out to me, obviously, his boxing is so crisp, like so crisp, like very crisp, very. He's smooth, but he almost seems like he's not even stressing, or he just flows so well, and it seems so nonchalant. He just throwing it out there and he's landing easily. It just seems something he can do with ease. It's like when you see somebody who's good at something that's very difficult, but they make it look easy, so you think you can do it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is really tough. Like a golfer, like a really good golfer who just smacks it really far, and you're like, oh, that looks easy. Just hit the club, then it's going to go really far.
and unless you've done it a few times, you're going to miss the ball entirely if you try to swing like that.
Yeah, you hit the ground.
Like forget slice or hook. You're not even going to hit the ball. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's super smooth. One concern, he's such a big guy, so that's going to give problems to so many flyweights, just being so long and lengthy and tall. The only concern I have is how long can he stay in the division? Mm-hmm. Who knows? I've questioned that about some people, and they stay in the division forever. Sorry guys, somehow I did not charge my. Sorry, I didn't charge my computer. I didn't realize it. It's sitting right here next to a plug without being plugged in.
Yeah, I can agree with the thing about Erceg's size. Even Pantoja was mentioning, wow, he's bigger than I expected. But having said that, Erceg made the weight on a fairly quick turnaround, and he was not. After 5 rounds of pretty high-paced action on the ground and on the feet, he didn't lose because he was tired. I mean, unless his brain was tired and he just wanted a nap. But yeah, his body being exhausted did not lose in the fight. So for the time being, it is all systems go. Yeah.
So first round was all Pantoja. Fourth round was all Erceg. Second round was really close, but it seemed like it was a little bit of a changing of the tide halfway through. Like you could see the momentum. It seemed like Erceg's confidence was even growing more. You could see Pantoja was getting a little frustrated. It seemed like almost Pantoja had a moment where he's like, wow, this is going to be harder than I expected. And I know everything he said, he wasn't looking past him, and I really expect that, but I'm sure he was super confident and also felt like I could run through this guy. And not I'm looking past like an over him way, but like I'm the man. Like he has that confidence.
I'm the man. And I've had people like Amir Albazi and maybe a rematch with Manel Kape on my circled on my calendar since before this dude was even in the UFC. So let's just get past this and move on to the next thing. I can agree with that. I'm not saying underestimated or overlooked, but yeah, just.
But I think about midway through the second where Erceg he's starting to get Pantoja to back up, and Pantoja's not just completely going forward. I think it kind of switches the points. Like, oh no, this is going to be a five round war. Like we're going the distance. This is going to be, oh man, this is going to be a tough night.
Yes.
The third round might be the hardest round to score.
Agreed. And a couple people have already mentioned the reason why I think it's hard to score.
All right, go ahead. Tell me
the most memorable thing, the most memorable moment of offense in the round, probably in the entire fight, is the elbow that cut Pantoja wide open, and just all of a sudden both guys are soaked in Pantoja's blood. That's the visual hook of the round. But the most damaging strike of the round was probably the punch on Pantoja that made Erceg kind of stagger back and go googly-eyed for a second. It harks back to what we talked about at the beginning of the show, where not all damage is equally visible. And I think it may have been Anthony Tardif who said that you measure damage by how close it came to finishing the fight. Well, in this case, a horrible cut that's not leaking into your eye is not really in any danger of stopping the fight.
Yeah. Yeah. If that was the end of the fight, just the end of the fight, they put a Band-Aid over it and he's fine. But because the fight goes on and he's, his heart's still pumping, it starts leaking more.
Yeah.
But you throw some Vaseline in there and a nice gauze, it's not the bag. It's a flesh wound.
Yeah.
But it was still, I think everything to go with it looked the worst because obviously he's leaking. I think he sold it even worse when he started reaching up to his head because he probably realized he was bleeding. He probably wanted to see and feel and get
how
an
the
idea.
Fighter reacts to the strike is such a big part of it.
Yeah. And I think that, and I had a hard time, and I'm kind of scoring as I'm going, and I'm like, man, how do you score that? Because I felt like Pantoja was winning the striking early. It was close, but I thought he was landing the better shots. Erceg was really not going. Erceg caught him with that beautiful shot, made him leak, but then Pantoja takes him down, controls him, gets some ground and pound. Like he had and I go, am I really going to give a guy a round because of one strike? Again, what is damage? Is bleeding damage? Obviously it is, sure. But does that trump? Like, am I giving a guy who won 10 seconds of the round, the entire round? Where again, like you said, it wasn't like you could win a round in 10 seconds if you hit the guy's knees buckling, you're coming after him, throwing, and you hit him with 10 more punches in those 10 seconds. So I'm not saying the time matters, but I mean, generally, like, it was tough. I'm okay with anybody who did give it to him, though. And if I rewatch this fight, I might give it to Erceg.
Yeah, I'm with you. I scored round 3 for Pantoja, but if I watched it again, it was that close a round.
Yeah, and here's my argument, and we already went to the fourth, get to the fifth round, and this is obviously the round. If you're going again by one cut, if you're saying one cut sways it for Erceg, don't you have to give him the fifth too? Because in the fifth, yes, Pantoja controlled, took him down, won scrambles, ended on top, had ended the round with some decent ground and pound and some scrambles and some, back take and all this. But the most significant strike was another elbow to the other side, or maybe it was a hook. I don't remember. To the other side.
No, it was another elbow.
Another elbow. Okay. And it cut him immediately. So if you're going to give the third for Erceg because of one significant, and I know he needs more than that, but I'm saying the big, the thing that shifts you to a normal round would be Pantoja, but you shift it to Erceg because it's one strike. I feel like you have to do the same thing in the fifth.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't have anything to add to that. I feel the same way.
So the thing, and I saw someone mentioned, said it was a surreal gone moment and everything, was the fifth round. All the judges, I think one judge had Pantoja up 3-1, but everyone else had a 2-2. Mm-hmm. They all gave Pantoja the round of the fifth, which made him win. I don't hate the idea of looking for takedowns in a really close fight in general. I mean, I actually usually like that, but it's one of those ones where it's a gamble, like, because of who you're going against. You're going into Pantoja's world, and if you can't control that, you played right in his hand, and that was the problem. And the gamble just didn't work. He was the deal is showing a 6, and you're sitting at 17, and all of a sudden they pull out, 21. I don't know. I'm not a blackjack, but I was trying to do something,
Yeah, you're taking a chance.
Yeah, and it didn't work out. I don't think it was Cyril Gahn, because Cyril Gahn was on top and then he dropped back for a heel hook, which one never works. So he was trying to get the dominant position. Mm-hmm. and he was trying to steal around. And if he took him down and controlled the rest around, we'd be calling him world champion right now.
Yeah, he would have won a split decision in all likelihood. And it's not just attempting to bring the fight to the ground, but making the attempt in the way he did against maybe the best scrambler in the division in Pantoja. It just put it directly into Pantoja's wheelhouse in the way that almost no other mistake could have done. It's almost the worst thing he could have done.
I would have liked the strategy if it was later in the round. If there was 30 seconds left and he's like, and it was a back and forth on the feet, like, I don't know if I'm winning. It's really close. I'm going to try to take him down and win. Even I can only control him for 10 seconds when we get back to our feet, but that's something they remember, something significant. Mm-hmm. Or I take him down and I can hold him down for 30 seconds. But you're not going to hold down Pantoja for 3 minutes. It's not going to happen.
You're not.
There's about, I don't know, 3 people on planet Earth, 3 people in that weight class in the world that could hold down. Like, I don't think Spencer Lee could hold down Pantoja.
No. The only person that I would give even a decent chance of it would be someone like Davison Figueiredo back when he was at 125. But that
bigger,
it would have been out of character. Yeah.
And even that, I don't.
Even that. Just I'm thinking of combination of good wrestling, just actual physical bulk, and not being completely spastic on the ground.
Yeah. And I'm not dogging Erceg. I mean, Erceg's he showed that he can grapple. It's just like you could be a great 3-point shooter. You don't challenge Stephen Curry to a 3-point contest.
There you go.
So, a year from now, does Erceg win? Does he win a rematch?
I think it's entirely possible. And this is something we both said on the preview. We both picked Pantoja, and we both said this will not be even if Pantoja does win, this won't be the last time we see Erceg in a title fight. Yeah. I mean, for one thing, a year from now, Pantoja's going to be 35.
Yeah.
And Erceg will still be under 30. So, but even that aside, say this had ended on some like freaky thing and they run this back in 3 months. Even there, I'm like, Erceg has a much cleaner list of things to do differently next time, like things to take back to the drawing board, where Pantoja's like, I fought a pretty damn good fight and this guy still took me to the wire.
Yeah, exactly. Pantoja had the fight he wanted and he still barely won. Where Erceg fought most of the fight not the way he wanted and almost won. And I'm sure there's a lot of scorecards out there that gave it to Erceg.
Probably.
And I'm okay with anybody who did.
The fight broke MMAdecisions.com. I've been kind of checking to see what the media scores were, but it broke our buddy in Halifax. So I don't know. And I was also going to check to see who the judges were, because a couple of people have talked about crappy Brazilian judges, but I think there was only one Brazilian judge in that fight. And the UFC brought Dave Torelli and Sal D'Amato. So the UFC imports its own crappy judges sometimes. Yeah. No home cooking needed.
Yeah. So let's, I think it's one of these fights where, one guy wins, but I thought both guys look good. I think Pantoja, he's starting to make himself having a nice little run here at flyweight as a champion. I'm one more win. The UFC would be calling him the consensus greatest flyweight ever. Ignoring Demetrius Johnson's like 25 wins in a row or something like that. But
and that's something worth talking about for a second, because you mentioned a few minutes ago that some people make something look easy and you don't realize how hard it is until you see somebody else try it. Demetrius Johnson won 11 straight title fights in this division and made it look easy. Until he lost to Cejudo, only maybe one person had even made him sweat. And then since then, Ben's flyweight has been about like heavyweight, where defending your title 3 times is this unreachable goal. And as fun as this division is, everyone seems so vulnerable. Even when Davison Figueiredo was the champ, no one thought he was unbeatable. He had flaws that everyone could see and were there to be exploited. Brandon Moreno is fucking so awesome, but the flaws were out there. Like, it's the same with Pantoja. You don't, unless you're Demetrius Johnson, apparently you don't defend your title 3 straight times in the men's flyweight division without at least a little luck. You have to be good. You also have to be at least a little bit lucky. A few scorecards have to go your way. Your opponent has to make the wrong mistake at the wrong time. Yeah. Demetrius Johnson, in like just sitting at home playing Xbox, is just kind of slowly moving back up my GOAT list, just as I see how hard it is for normal humans to do what he did.
You know me, man. You don't have to convince me. I still think right now that Demetrius Johnson is the top 5-pound fighter in the world. I mean, he's fighting guys 20, 25 pounds bigger than him and winning. Like, I am as big of a Demetrius Johnson fan there is on planet Earth. To me, he's top 3 fighter all time. So I don't want to go too far down that path, but so like, I just want to say, I thought both guys, I thought Pantoja showed that he's the best guy in the world, and I think Erceg made a really strong argument that he might be the second best. What are we doing? You mentioned a couple guys as possibilities: Amir Albazi, Muhammad Makayev, Manel Kopp. Like, I can't get Kopp a title shot. He can't make weight. He can't fight. He's
first call is Amir Albazi. If he's healthy, he's ready to go. He needs it. He's 6-0 in the UFC, and he was very good before he got to the UFC. It's not a sexy call. His fights aren't always that exciting. His personality isn't that exciting, but if there's any merit involved here, let's just get it out of the way. Okay. Second call, probably Makayev. Like, I would love to see Kopp get a shot, but I need Kopp to
he's not gonna
schedule a fight, show up, make weight, and win. At least, again, he has turned into flyweight Yoel Romero, where, yeah, he's a lot of fun, but you can't trust this guy to carry a pay-per-view for you.
No. I'm going to misdial Albazi, and I'm going to call Makayev and say, I don't know, Albazi didn't answer.
Makayev's next.
Yeah.
And considering Albazi's health, it may end up being Makayev.
Yeah.
So
I just think he's a little more marketable. I mean, I'll tell you this: Albazi talked a lot before his last fight. Like, he's trying to make himself more, but Makayev has this like aura to him. I'm doing that one, and if I'm Pantoja, I want that one first because I want Makayev now instead of a year from now or 2 years from now.
Agreed.
If I'm Pantoja, so we kind of disagree there, but one of those two guys were kind of leading the pack. And there's not many when we talk about who it is because Pantoja's been in the division so long and he's beaten so many guys. You know what I don't mind, and I know this is like, all right, guys, if this is your first time ever watching the show, we don't recap we're not talking to managers and we don't, who can fight and when. We just do like, we're the ultimate supreme being. No one can say no to us. I'm calling up one championship and say, hey, what do you want for Demetrius Johnson? I say, could you imagine that?
Oh my goodness.
The
only question would be that, okay, yeah, we run the universe, but DJ has expressed that he's not super interested in ever cutting to 125 again. But if he was willing,
he weighs
that's
like
a dream matchup.
He weighs like 127. He's not a big person. All right. Erceg, what are you doing with him?
I don't think his stock lost anything in defeat here. I want him to go out, win another fight, maybe 2 fights, and maybe get a shot at whoever's champ again. Because if it's still Pantoja around, Pantoja is already to the point of doing a second lap around all these contenders. So I'm giving Erceg, I would say the loser, but honestly, either end of the Alex Perez Tagir Ulanbekov fight that's in like 5 or 6 weeks. It's on June 15th.
Oh, yeah.
Perez is all of a sudden the man of interest again. Ulanbekov has won a bunch of fights in a row. Whoever wins that is is pretty far up the ladder. So maybe you give Erceg the loser of that. Or honestly, maybe you just give him Perez, win or lose, since Perez has already fought Pantoja.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with Brandon Royval. The reason why I'm going to do that is because we don't have a lot of contenders, being that Pantoja has fought everybody. You have the two guys leading the pack with Makayev and Albazi, and then after that, there's nobody else. This case, we knock one of the guys that Pantoja has already fought out, and we kind of promote the other guy back in. You hope that Erceg wins because Royval has lost to Pantoja twice now. But that's kind of, it's a shallow division as it is already, because it's 125. Not many guys can walk around at 125 or, even walk on around from the locker room in the back to the scale for 10 seconds. But
yeah,
that's kind of what I'm doing. Real quick before we move on, Juicex asked, was this fight of the year caliber? I'm going to say no, and I'll say the reason why. I love this fight, but the reason why it's hard to have fight of the year with such a, I like grappling, but like such a heavy grappling base. Like you kind of want, usually when we think of fight of the year, it's rock'em sock'em, and we didn't have like rock'em sock'em moments.
We didn't have rock'em sock'em moments, and
a lot of strategy, a lot of like changing of tides and momentum and who's winning and it's who won that round. Like I love all that, but you still, to get fight of the year, you need some of that. Like,
agreed. And we're talking also about kind of sensational visible damage. This looked like a fucking bloodbath because of all the cuts, but was there a clean knockdown in the entire fight?
No.
It was a high level fight that showed us all phases of MMA at a pretty good pace, but yeah, like to put this even on the fight of the year list would be a disservice to like Dustin Poirier.
Yeah, I'll say something to the chat because we know we try to be active. If you want to get us to comment, you're better off writing like 1 or 2 sentences. If you write like a paragraph, it's like we're scrolling and talking and trying to keep a conversation, but still trying to add you guys in. If you write a paragraph, it's going to be really hard for me to like. I'm a public school guy, like I'm not reading that fast. So I think both of us, we had the right pick. I think we had a good feel on it. Like I think we both gave Erceg a much better chance than the general public was. So
yes,
the fight that I had a terrible read on, the King of Rio, I don't know, is he the consensus greatest featherweight again? I mean, he's back in the UFC, so now we can say it, I guess. Jose Aldo at bantamweight returns against Jonathan Martinez. I thought Jonathan Martinez was going to style on Jose Aldo, and it was 180 the opposite. Jose Aldo looked like, I don't want to say vintage Jose,
no,
but pretty close to prime. Like he looked great. He
looked, first things first, looked physically incredible. I said on the preview that I expected Martinez to be the visually larger fighter in the cage, no matter what the tail of the tape said. The opposite was true. Aldo was the bigger guy, like more muscled. He was physically the bully. But then on top of that, the speed. He was the faster fighter. Cardio was not a problem. And you know what? Jose Aldo at whatever weight class could fight 20 rounds at Jose Aldo pace. And we'll probably get to it, but Martinez gave Aldo the fight Aldo wanted and needed from the jump and never really knocked him out of his comfort zone. So I don't know what Aldo's cardio would look like if he had to fight Jan or Merab again, but against the Jonathan Martinez's of the world, who were just going to give him a slow to medium paced kickboxing match, his cardio was fine. So Aldo looked incredible physically. All of his weapons were in good evidence. And yeah, he styled on Martinez. Like you said, it was the exact opposite of what we kind of expected, to the point where, yeah, he got I'm in the zone. I'm just going to kind of chuck you on the ground like Tim Boach on David Heath in the third round, just because I'm here, I'm beating you up and I feel like it. What a performance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I thought he looked. I mean, he's won what 4 of his last 5 fights, so it's not like super surprised. But even the ones he won, he didn't look as good as he did today. I mean, he was fast, he was hitting hard. I mean, could it be that the time off like helped his body heal? And I know he was doing some boxing and everything, but just to box. I don't follow boxing, but I'm assuming he's boxing lower level guys. He's not going through a grueling MMA camp. Could that have been the difference? Could it have been, reset of mind, kind of take some time away from sport, get spend time with family, whatever. Could it have been returning?
Could it be USADA being gone?
I was getting to that.
Gone.
I was getting that.
And you know what? Don't come at me saying that this is some kind of slight or slam, because I'm on record as thinking most of the currently banned performance enhancers should be allowed. But with USADA out of the way, fighting in Brazil, Aldo looked about the same as usual, but there are a couple guys on this card that looked like they put on about 20 pounds of pure acai and horse meat. So that might be part of it, because a lot of those performance enhancers, they don't necessarily turn you into this walking brick shithouse. You just end up with a lot fewer training injuries, and people are able to come into fights in better condition. Yeah,
it could have been that. I mean, it could be just the moment, being back in Rio, the crowd, like you have these, these. It's like why some teams, they just play great when they're at home, and then when they're on the way, they don't play as well, and some people can't handle it. So it could have been something like that. This somehow a 37-year-old beat, and I don't even know how it was. Martin, like
29, 30. 29. He just turned 30. Yeah.
So a 37-year-old beating a 30-year-old was great for the UFC.
Yes.
Which is obviously really different. I love the variety in his boxing. Like he was ripping the body a lot. He was throwing combinations, which Jose Aldo he doesn't do a lot. He's never, especially near the end of his career.
Like his 3-2 and like alternating hooks to the body were so fast and so nasty. And once he started landing those, I mean, Martinez didn't really look like he wanted to be there after about 15 seconds into the fight, but he really looked like he didn't want to be in there once Aldo started flowing and ripping to the body with combinations.
Yeah, it really seemed like the moment got to Martinez. He fought it at a much slower pace. He fought at that, like he got, like you mentioned, he got brought into that Jose Aldo pace where he was, it was like you go, I go, you go, I go. But Martinez was throwing one kick, Aldo was throwing 4 punches. It wasn't like, it was more like like a sparring session when you'd be like, yo, guys, calm it down a little bit, and he just, I mean, his team was screaming at him to bring up the volume, and he just never did. And then the one time late in the fight when he started to, it was too late, but then he started getting hurt. And I mean, it was a terrible, I don't know if it was I think it was a bad showing by Martinez, but it was just a fantastic showing by Jose Aldo. I saw some people tweeting out this, the division is so deep. There's guys, I'm not arguing this. I'm not arguing that Jose Aldo should get a title shot. Like, I'm not saying that. But could you imagine if Jose Aldo fought Sean O'Malley? Like, how fun would that be?
Now, we do have a request. Sherdog associate editor Jay Petrie, who to this day has never left off of giving us shit for running the gauntlet after Hani Barcelos won a fight and just going up the Sherdog top 15 and asking whether he could beat. He has specifically requested that we do so with Jose Aldo. So I'm going to throw it at you if you don't mind. Okay. So starting with number 15, don't even need to ask. It's Jonathan Martinez.
Okay.
He just beat him bad. Number 14, Rob Font.
All right. This obviously he already beat him.
But okay, I'm just
he beat him. He beat him.
Off. Number 13, Umar Nurmagomedov.
I'll go Man, I don't know. I mean, this is a no tape study. Umar's not going to wrestle him. He's not going to wrestle Jose.
But if you're even have to think about it,
yeah,
like that's good enough for me to move on to the next guy.
Yeah, and that's also a guy. He's might be ranked 13th, but he should his potential is so much higher.
Yes.
There's a bunch of guys you're going to name now that I would take Umar over.
Sure. Number 12, we won't dwell on this because they're not in the same promotion, but Raufeon Stotts.
Yeah.
But I think Aldo handles him. Stotts, all he can do is try to take him down. Number 11, my pick for next matchup for him, Davison Figueiredo.
Man, I think Aldo.
Number 10, Song Yadong.
Oof, that's a good one. That's a real good one. I don't know, man. There's no I might take Song. I'm a big Song guy. Okay. But that's a close one. It's really close though. I don't know. I'm not feeling confident. But if you asked me this 24 hours ago, I would have laughed at you. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Song Yadong would smoke him.
Yeah. Number 9, don't even need to ask. Marlon Vera.
I'd take Aldo.
He beat Vera within like the last 2 years. Number 8 is Sergio Pettis. We'll jump over that. Number 7, Corey Sandhagen.
And just for the record, I think Aldo would start Pettis.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm still taking Sandhagen, but it's a much tougher fight than. Wow, Sandhagen's that low in our rankings. I'm a little surprised with that.
Well, I mean, there are several people he's lost to ahead of him. So
yeah, that's fair enough. It just seems like
we still have not gotten to a guy where you're like, oh, no chance. Right?
Oh yeah, not a single guy is really good to smoke some.
6, Henry Cejudo.
I think Jose Aldo was.
I agree with you. 5, he's already lost to Petr Yan.
I think that's a good one. That's a toss-up.
Yeah.
It's a real toss-up.
Yeah. And then
it wasn't a toss-up when they fought. Yan put it on him.
Yeah. But Yan has felt like he's sliding a little bit, and Aldo looks incredible. And then above that, we're up to Merab, Sterling, O'Malley. You know?
Him and Sterling would be a lot of fun.
Him and Sterling would be a lot of fun. Obviously, Sterling will be out of our bantamweight rankings, pretty soon here. But
other than Sean O'Malley, there's not a guy in the division more marketable.
That's absolutely.
Now going back to what I said, like title shot. I wasn't arguing for him to get a title shot, but if you call him a Rob and something happens, and then you call Sandhagen and something happens, there's guys who deserve longer win streaks, this and that. I'm skipping them all. I'm calling Jose Aldo.
And that's one of the reasons why I thought Aldo versus Figueiredo would be a good next fight, because after Figueiredo trashed Garbrandt, we did matching for him, of course. And I can't remember who I recommended for Figueiredo, but my whole thought was you need to kind of strike while the iron is hot, because if you can get Figueiredo into a title shot here, you should, because it won't last forever. He is aging, but Aldo's a guy you can match him against where whoever wins takes a step forward there.
Yeah.
So, you're not completely just, killing a potential title challenger.
So I just want to say this. I think Aldo is a free agent. I think he had one fight left on his contract.
Jose Aldo?
I think he did.
There is no way the UFC lets him go.
There's something like that. No, I'm saying like these matchups we're talking about with Sergio Pettis and Rafian
Patchy Mix.
And then Patchy Mix. Somehow we skipped him, but yeah. If you're Bellator, you're PFL or something, that combination. I mean, you go hard after Jose Aldo, but he seems like a company guy. He seems like a guy that would. And I know he left and did boxing and everything, so maybe I don't know Jose Aldo like that. But there's a lot of fun matchups you can do. And the matchup I would do next, I kind of have two names. The one name that they were originally going to do, the one that was supposed to be tonight, was Dominic Cruz, which would be so much better. But I'd take the Henry Cejudo fight. Two big names.
We're both in the same realm then. I'm saying Figueiredo you know,
Yeah,
you're saying
yes,
Cejudo. We'd both love it if they can make the cruise fight a
yeah.
legends matchup.
The reason why I'm okay with Figueiredo too, but that match has to be in Brazil. But the only thing that I don't like, and I'll tell you why, is that the two Brazilians, neither one of them speak English, which is not a huge thing. But the card I'm gonna this is why the card I'm gonna put Jose Aldo on. We normally don't do this, but I'm gonna give the specific card to put Jose Aldo on.
Okay.
Him versus Henry Cejudo, like third from the top on Connor's card.
Ooh.
Imagine the press conference with Connor and Jose Aldo right there. Cejudo saying crazy shit.
We might get a little bit of English out of Aldo.
Yeah, you watch the embedded stuff. He speaks more English than he pretends. He's got that little Fedor thing going where he pretends he doesn't speak any English.
Yes, the little Anderson Silva thing where he always spoke more English than he let on.
Yeah. Suddenly Anderson Silva spoke no English when he came to USADA.
Yeah. All right. You win, because if it's Cejudo versus Aldo, then we get the battle of the plastic crowns.
There you go.
Like they ought to do a BMF thing, and just whoever wins that gets an actual crown that's made of metal.
Let's
face it, the plastic crowns are embarrassing. Come on.
Yeah. I just think about, still to this day, probably the biggest moment for Connor. You know, not counting boxing Floyd Mayweather or anything like that. Yeah. You know, I know he won the 2 titles and then the huge fights against Diaz, but to me, the one moment that Connor that tops all of them is catching Jose Aldo the way he did. And you think about their careers, one's a bantamweight now, and the other one's a welterweight.
Yep.
It's just funny when you think about Martinez. This was a crushing defeat for him, especially in that division.
It was a crushing defeat. Having said that, he's young. He's got time to regroup. He's at a great camp. I'm not sending him too far down the ladder.
Okay.
But I am giving him an unranked opponent next. I'd like him versus Victor Henry. Just fought a couple weeks ago. Henry, you know, he's alternated some wins and losses. Sometimes he's looked fantastic. You know, it's a good fight to either Martinez bounces back and just manhandles Henry and saws his legs off, and we know that Martinez is still the goods, or Henry beats Martinez, and okay, we have a problem.
Yeah. I'm 30C West is killing it today. I'm going a little higher. I'm going to go, because when you're in a co-main event and you kind of got that shine, you get a little more name recognition than he did, you know, his last fight. I'm going to give him Kyler Phillips. Phillips has had a nice run. He kind of deserves a bigger step up in competition. So I'll do Martinez versus Kyler Phillips. Let's go with probably. I don't think it was. So a lot of people were taking Jose Aldo to win. So I don't think it was, not us, but a lot of people were taking Jose Aldo to win. So nobody was taking Anthony Smith to win against Victor Petrino, and Anthony was won by first round sub.
May I? Okay, so this wasn't even my worst take of the night. We'll get to my worst pick of the night, but maybe the single dumbest thing I said on our preview, and that's saying something because we talk for 3 hours and I say some dumb things. I picked Petrino with confidence because the way Anthony Smith's game works, even if Petrino makes a mistake, it's not the kind of mistake that Smith is going to be able to make the fight turn on it. Like, you know, say he goofs around on the feet and Smith catches him clean. Well, Smith isn't the one-shot knockout guy. I did not account for the possibility that Petrino would just go for a slow double leg against the fence and just do nothing while Smith. He didn't slap on this lightning fast guillotine. Like, it was very. I mean, it was almost like he was teaching the guillotine at the gym. And Petrino still doesn't react as Smith locks it up, falls to guard. Like, I'm at a loss to explain it. And honestly, the perfect explanation for it came from Smith himself, where, you know, Smith always intelligent, gracious. DC asks him, you know, were you surprised that he didn't try to defend the guillotine? He's like, well, no, he's never lost before. What would make him think that this is going to be different for anything that anyone else has tried on him?
Yeah, I actually wrote that in my notes. Like, I think that was how he can go from fighter to analyst. And I was like, well, that's such a good insight, because I tweeted out, I'm like, he was winning the step. Now, I know they were like talking about his leg kicks and that Smith was landing some leg kicks. I don't think it was as effective as people think. I know he was supposedly limping, but that also your adrenaline goes down. You feel things that. But I was like, why would you shoot a takedown? He was landing power shots and looking like, oh wow, this is not going the way Smith wants it. He's not reacting good to the shots. And then he shoots in, and then Smith goes, yeah, because he's undefeated. And he's never really faced like diversity like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, like he just expects like I'm gonna shoot it and pick him up and slam him now. And you're like, nope, you're gonna get guillotined, and that's the end of it. I thought it was like, wow, that like thinking of that is even better than like winning by submission. Did Anthony Smith look good, or is it more like Petrino just made a terrible mistake?
Petrino made a terrible mistake, but Anthony Smith was the right guy to take advantage of it. And again, I didn't think he would be. I thought Petrino could make some rookie mistakes. I thought Smith was the perfect guy to build Petrino on, because Petrino, he really is raw. Everything Smith said in the lead up to it was right. Petrino is a guy who's gotten by on just being big and strong and aggressive so far. And I thought Petrino could make some rookie mistakes against Smith and still be fine, and he could learn and stay undefeated and move up the ladder. And I was wrong. And I'm happy to be wrong about something like that.
I thought he was going to start him, so I'm right with you, man.
And the one thing I did get right was Smith is dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because no one was picking him, and I'll say this about guillotines. I hate guillotines. I think they don't work 99% of the time. I don't want to say 99, but a lot of times. But when they do, man, it's fun. You know, it's an absolute game changer. And when he jumped on it and finished it, I'm not giving up on Petrino. I think this is a learning curve. I still feel like he's one of the best guys in the division. I think he's still going to go pretty far in that division. I think in a weird sense, this could be a bad thing for Smith, because it kind of prolongs his career and kind of keeps him probably fighting upper echelon. Like the beatings are still going to come.
We're going to get to matchmaking, and yeah, I might be wrong again, but the next guy I have him fighting is someone that's probably going to hurt him really bad.
All right, who you go with?
The winner of Carlos Ulberg and Alonzo Menafield.
I thought about that one, especially if Ulberg wins and wins, expected, because Ulberg obviously is the more marketable guy, because Menafield's been around a long time and win one, lose one. Well, Ulberg kind of sees. I thought about that, especially if Ulberg wins, and I'm okay with that one. I went with Nikita Krylov just because it was kind of like lazy. I was going through the rankings and looking who was booked, and it was like one of the few guys that wasn't booked, and I'm like, yeah, he's on a 3-fight winning streak, kind of like a very quiet winning streak. I know he's been out with injuries and stuff, so he's been a really long time since he's been in there. But yeah, honestly, if Ulberg wins, I like the Ulberg matchup more than Menafield. But I guess if Menafield beats Ulberg, he'll get some shine. So
yeah, and the thing is, Ulberg versus Smith, Ulberg should absolutely murk Smith, but Ulberg is much, much greener than Menafield, and he's more likely to make a Petrino type mistake. And
absolutely,
dude, if Smith gets back-to-back wins over top 10 fighters this year, dude, he might get another title shot before he retires.
I hope not. I mean, dude, why not retire off the win? He never won in Brazil. Now you got it. Like
whoever retires at the right time.
No, Matt Brown, I guess. No, actually, he didn't retire at the right time. He retired before he took his next loss, but he had like the spectacular knockout in his last fight. He should have retired right there on the spot and got a big cheer from the crowd. But Petrino, I'm not knocking him too far down. Felipe Lenz is on a winning streak. He kind of deserves a step up in competition. I'm going to give him Petrino.
I like that just fine. Yeah.
All right, let's go to probably the funnest moment. I mean, Michel Pereira is always fun, even though he wasn't allowed to dance like he did this last time. Boo on the UFC for that. But he took on Ilia Topuria, winning by first round submission. We'll get to the flying knee drop in a second. But dude, take that one moment out. Pereira looks incredible. Fast.
He continues to look incredible at 185. And it makes me hesitant to call other middleweights athletic until I think about them and I think about Michel Pereira and whether I feel silly making the comparison.
We joke about him, and you know, when we think about his coming to the UFC and all the crazy shit he does, but I mean, dude's fast, dude's explosive, and he in that division, I think he's a true contender. Now, again, like we beat tonight, I mean, there's a huge step up compared to other.
Well, look who he maybe beat tonight, maybe shouldn't have, but
we'll get to that in a second. I might have a very different opinion than you, but this guy has won 8 wins in a row. But if you really dig into his record in the UFC, he could be 11-0 in the UFC.
Yeah,
because obviously he's 9-2. He's won, his one loss. First loss was against Tristan Conley, a fight that he was, beating the shit out of the guy, and then he starts turning it into a freaking circus acrobat show while gassing out. Yeah. And then beating the dog shit out of Diego Sanchez, and then does another illegal strike, and Diego Sanchez says, "Oh wait, if I don't fight, I'm gonna win." I asked the referee that, and they go, "Oh yeah, I can't continue."
I don't know how you would measure athleticism objectively. What you want to put him through an Olympic decathlon, you want to put him through an NFL combine, but just subjectively, the stuff you see them do and how improbable it looks for somebody that does the kinds of stuff that Pereira just does casually. I'm going all the way back to like Kevin Randleman, where Randleman just warming up before the fight would just be jumping and doing like frog jumps in place, and you'd see his knees clearing the top of the octagon.
I know. Kevin Randleman. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. And Pereira is a much more skilled fighter than Kevin Randleman ever was.
UFC Hall of Famer.
Yes, UFC Hall of Famer, and deservedly so. But the sport's come a long way, and Randleman was falling behind the times even at the time.
We'll agree to disagree on that one, but okay. I don't want to talk about the Kevin Randleman at 2:08 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get another. He still has to be Michel Pereira, so he knocks him down and does a backflip over. So if you didn't watch the fight, which I'm assuming everyone here has, but he does a backflip over, over the guard, kind of Sakuraba, but Sakuraba does a backflip first.
But there's a big difference.
Yeah, you can stomp
knees and stomps the head of a grounded opponent were legal in Pride.
Sakuraba tried to jump over his opponent's legs. He went straight backflip over it. I mean, it was spectacular. His knee lands directly on his opponent's face. I think they made the right call, which is, I'm sure, is going to be. Was the knee illegal? Absolutely. But the reason why I think you can't overturn it is the referee didn't call it at that moment. The fight continues, and then he locks on a guillotine. Almost right after this, but locks on a guillotine. 10 seconds, 8 seconds. But you continued the thing, and then it was a different move that ended the fight. So which means you can't there's a holding call in football in this play, you miss it, and then the team breaks off a touchdown run. The next one, you can't go, oh, we just realized we missed a holding call in the play before this play.
I agree. Once the right result was announced in the cage after this fight, it wasn't something that they could reverse even after looking at the tape there. Having said that, it's something that if Pereira's handlers are doing their job, they should appeal to CAB MMA. It's not going to be overturned.
No,
but their protest should still be on. Stop, dude. Pereira could have pulled a knife out of his shorts and stabbed Pereira in the leg before choking him, and the Brazilian Commission wasn't going to turn that shit over.
Yeah. The guy, I can't think of his name right now because it's 2 times I'm on it now. The guy who had the freaking piece of glass at his foot. And he's like, I stepped on a piece of glass.
Yeah.
And he loses. The guy in
the French guy.
Yeah. Whatever his name is, throw it in the chat. Yeah, it was Mark Carter too, and Mark Carter was refereeing tonight. The one thing about Pereira, he really needs to step up a competition so far. Yeah.
Cedric Doumbé says Ben Cooley. Thanks, Ben. 10 points to you.
Yes. I'm giving Pereira Jack Hermanson.
Okay. Hermanson was one of the two names I had up here. The other one was Anthony Hernandez. Just had a fight and then had to back out of it because he got an injury. But if he was ready to go at the same time Pereira was, I would have been fine with that as well. Hermanson, if not. My side note is what I had written in advance. If Pereira won dominantly and uncontroversially, was going to be the winner of Cannonier versus Imavov, which could potentially have put Pereira into like a position to fight for a title by the end of this year.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that moment of stupidity, like, cost him on my book at least. He doesn't take a full step forward. He takes kind of like a diagonal step.
Speaking of stepping and stomping and flying in the air and kicking someone in the face, right before this fight, it was announced that Mauricio Shogun Rua is the newest member of the UFC Hall of Fame. Just for time's sake, which I keep this to like 30 seconds. Give me your thoughts on Shogun.
Okay, here's the thing. Shogun, one of the greatest fighters of all time. And at this point, in terms of straight achievements, he's been pushed a little way down the all-time pound-for-pound list. He's been pushed away down even like the 205-pound.
Sure.
But
time is always going to do that when you add more people.
Of course, time's always going to do that. But some of the stuff that he accomplished, really, it transcends just the level of athleticism or skill of the time. Because think about this. When he came to the UFC, he was the hottest acquisition that came over from Pride. More than Vanderlei Silva, more, and I know Crow Cop and Anderson Silva like jump ship a little early. It was Shogun.
Yeah.
Because on top of everything, he was the young Vanderlei, the more athletic Vanderlei, the bigger Vanderlei.
Yep.
He lost his debut to Forrest Griffin. UFC fan, Pride haters all laughed, said, ha, ha, ha. Even people like me, a very hardcore fan at the time, kind of wrote him off. I said, maybe his knees are never going to be okay.
Yeah. He had a bunch of injuries.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If you cut his career in half at that point, him before losing to Griffin and then him after losing to Griffin, where a good number of people thought he might be washed up, that's two separate careers, and they both might be among the 15 greatest light heavyweights of all time.
Yeah.
The guy has been one of the greatest fighters of all time in his division twice. Dude, if you cut his career off again when John Jones beat the piss out of him, stepped up on short notice and beat him into tapping the strikes, beat Shogun Rua into tapping the strikes. If you just take what he did after that, it's incredible what he did after losing to Jones.
That's right. That's right.
Like, as much as the people that we hold up as the greatest examples of it, your Arlovskis and Overeems, he made adjustments to his failing body and allowed himself to stay competitive and beat top fighters longer than we had any reason to expect. And it's just, it's incredible. And it gets lost in the incredible highlight reel of the Pride, flying head stomps and the starching Chuck Liddell.
Kicking Rampage. Like a Rampage like curled up in the corner and kicking him in the face.
Just like the doing little things right.
Hammer fisting Hikaru Rona into like dead body. I'll say this real quick. We got to move on. A couple things that always still stand out to me is one of, and they mentioned this on the broadcast, John Anik mentioned, one of the best years ever, 2005, his run to the Grand Prix, kind of the guy on the outside. No, nobody's talking about him because you're talking about Vanderlei from the team, goes on an all-time epic run, not beating people, killing everybody. That will stand out to me. Another thing that stand out to me is one of the, like you mentioned, one of the Pride guys that came over and then still had success in the UFC, where a lot of guys didn't. One of the youngest, like his run in Pride was super young. while he still had such a legendary career, still a big question mark. Like, what could have been if he didn't have some of the worst injuries? And then what the crazy thing is, he had won all these World Series, but then he still had a super long extended career, which is kind of crazy when you think about injuries. And then
he's the last guy you would have thought to still be on the fringes of the top 15 at like age 37.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last thing I'll say is obviously the Dan Henderson fight and that thing that he had and the knockout of Machida to win the title, everything, like just the man, the absolute man. So you know how I feel about the UFC Hall of Fame. It's everybody gets in anyways. But if you had a true MMA Hall of Fame, this guy's still getting in. Like, he's that good.
Yes.
So before that, it was on the main card, but one of the fights I was least interested because I really, really thought this was a stylistic match, and it really was. Paul Craig took on Cal Bahayo. He knocked he knocked him out bad. He knocked friggin' Paul Craig back to Scotland. The dude's good. He was better than Craig everywhere. He's a better striker. I think he might even be a better grappler. He didn't want to test the grappling because he said he's a fight nerd, so he studies in the best avenue of victory with Paul Craig is keeping on the feet. He kept it on the feet, and once he found his range, he was landing hard shots. Craig was not moving his head, and he knocked him. He's now 6-0 in the UFC.
He sure is.
And what I love is he didn't call anybody out. No, he did call Jared Cannonier, which is not the sexiest call out, but it's a tough one. But his time on the mic, he was so fun.
Yes.
He had like a Moicano feel to him, like a middleweight Moicano.
A little less insane, but like equally just effusive, just the enthusiasm and energy coming out of him. Yeah, it's infectious. And it was Bahalio that threw the glasses on DC, right?
Yeah, or him or somebody in the corner, somebody, yeah.
Yeah, but it was that interview.
Team,
yeah, it was fantastic. Like it's hard not to like Bahalio. His fights are a ton of fun. He's a fantastic fighter, and yeah, he's just got a fun, engaging personality. And it's ironic that you said that about the Cannonier matchup, because that's what I'm giving him next. I'm giving him the Cannonier Imavov win for the same reason I would have given it to Petrino. Like, it's not a super sexy matchup, but Cannonier has been there. Imavov had been scheduled for what would have been a title eliminator and like got injured out of it. If Bahalio beats the winner of that fight convincingly, he's not the next guy, but he's not far down the speed dial.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with that. I'm okay with that. Like, I had a different matchup, but I think you convinced me. Like, actually, I think yours makes a lot of sense. He called for Cannonier. Like, not many people call for fights with Cannonier. So I like that. One thing I'll say about middleweight, and it kind of just hit me as you were talking. We've kind of dogged this division for a long time, but it's starting to get a lot deeper. Like, it's not the sexiest with the names and this and that, but there's starting to become more and more guys that I'm getting interested in. We already mentioned Michel Pereira the last fight, saying like that's a guy that could be a contender. Like, and Bahayo's another guy. And I think the openness of the division is getting me more interested in the division because all right. So back up. I know this is a little off topic, but the NCAA wrestling this year, 125, was one of the most open division I've ever seen. Like, there was nobody ahead of the pack. Every time one guy would get ranked number one, he'd lose to like the number 19th guy in the country, and then it was new number one, and just kept happening. And that's how I kind of feel like middleweight is. Now somebody say, "What are you talking about?" Adesanya was a champion for like a really long time. Yeah, but since then, like, Dricus du Plessis could obviously hold the title for a while, or he could lose to 10 guys in the division right now. Yes. That's how I feel. And that makes me interested in the division.
And absolutely. And you know what? 3 years ago, Israel Adesanya had the division so on lock that he was looking for other things to do. We were like, man, he's going to go around on a third lap of beating the same guys that he's already beaten twice. There's nobody under 30 that's even coming up. And that feels like a long time ago. It is a whole different division than it was just 3 years ago.
Yeah. Paul Craig, to me, he's, because of what he did at light heavyweight, and again, never a guy that I thought was that good. I mean, even his when we were doing the preview shows, even during his run, I was always like picking him. I'm like, this is the fluke thing. He's not that good, but he beat Jamal Hill. He beat Ankalaev. He'd find ways to beat guys that I thought were better than him. It's really like the shows. I feel like it's his run is like season 87 of a TV show. It's The Walking Dead or Supernatural, the 97th season. Like, wait, someone's still watching that? Like that's kind of feel like Paul Craig. Like he's still sticking around and talking about making runs in the title, and it's like it's there, but people still like him. Like you look, he'll say crazy things, he'll paint his face. So to me, he's going to lose his next fight if you put him against a rising prospect or something like that. But you're better off having him losing to a rising prospect and get that go over than having him lose to a mid-level like a Brad Tavares. Like that does nothing for you. But he's going to lose to that guy too,
and you get nothing out of it.
So the guy I'm giving him, I want to see him get his face all painted up, getting all crazy. And I want him to get in Bo Nickal' face.
Oh.
I want him to be the next. Tell me that's not the best next opponent. And Nickal absolutely starches him.
Nickal absolutely starches him, but you know what? Nickal comes into that fight at minus 1,200, minus 1,500, and I'm not completely comfortable until the ref pulls them apart, because the one thing Craig can do, Nickal's never really been tested there.
Yeah,
like, it's the thing we just saw with Smith versus Petrino, where Petrino didn't even seem to react to the kind of trouble he was in until it was too late.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the one guy. Like, is Bo going to wrestle him? Like, Bo's thing is wrestling. Do you want to take down Paul Craig?
Yeah, and he takes down Paul Craig easy, slams him down. He's in his guard. He's wailing away. But Craig's legs are going up, but Bo's like, oh, the ref's going to stop this thing any second anyway. I'm not betting on it, but I'm not comfortable until the fight's over.
But if you have Paul Craig, the only way you get in the fight to the ground is you're pulling guard.
Yeah.
Or Bo you're not taking Bo down. You're not shooting.
No, you're not taking Bo down. No, what you're doing is you're pulling guard / letting Nickal take you down the first time he tries. Like,
well, it wouldn't matter if you let him or not.
Well, but, it changes how you land.
Yeah, fair
like
enough.
if you're trying to hop on one leg and sprawl versus just you're thinking about guard already, it makes the difference there. And you know what? You try to take Paul Craig down. He's like, don't threaten me with a good time.
All right. So 30 C1, you had a great night. And then you see something ridiculous. This whole Bo, I hope he's trolling. This whole Bo Nickal had a bad night against Cody Rogers. He got punched one time. Like, did people really expect him to never get punched in the UFC? Like, what is going on? I hope that's a troll job. He said if you can't beat Brundage in under one, how long did the fight go? It went like what? Like was it over 1.5?
It was just over 1.5 rounds. He's definitely getting a rise out of you at this point.
Okay, yeah. It was 1.6. The line was 1.6 rounds, so he made it. All right, let's move on because so that was that's the main card. Let's breeze through some of these prelims. Right. So what's up? We probably have to talk about. There's some fun stuff, but Jack Shaw took on Joe Anderson Brito winning by second round TKO in a really weird stoppage by cut to the shin, but then they're saying that the doctor was checking out the shin and he thought maybe it was broken. I don't know if that was confirmed, but they said that afterwards that the doctor stopped because he thought the shin was broken. So,
well, all right, let me add something to my dude seriously list then, because if you think it might be broken, then get your fucking fingers out of there and stop poking around.
Another guy like sticking his finger inside the wound, just like poking it. Like, what the hell? That's a Brazilian doctor right there. Stop complaining about American healthcare. Brito, I mean, this guy lost his UFC debut, and he has been on a freaking wrecking tour since.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not just that he's winning.
And he's mean. Like, he's enjoying hurting his opponents.
Yeah.
Like, he's aggressive. He's throwing hard. He's calf kicking. I mean, you could see the swelling, then the shin breaks open from calf kick. And it's funny because the way he fights, you don't think like super smart guy. And I don't mean that like dogging the guy, but he is smart because when we see like super aggressive, explosive guys, him, Pajeda, Petrino, you don't think like smart intelligence. When you think smart intelligence, you think of the way Aljamain Sterling fights, the way Jack Shore fights, and he was so intelligent because he forced Jack Shore on his back foot. And then anytime he got in that mid-range where Jack Shore might initiate the clinch, he initiated the clinch. So now Jack Shore is on the defense and Shore's carrying his weight. So Shore wants to weather a storm from Brito, get Brito to gas out, and Brito's not gassing out. Instead, he's actually resting on Shore, and Shore's the one gassing out. It was absolutely brilliant by Brito.
Yeah, just fantastic. Like close to a perfect fight by Joe Anderson Brito.
Yeah. I mean, this guy, I liked him heading into this contest. I like him even more. Like he's a guy, I thought he looks, I mean, obviously don't know what the matchup will be next, but the guy's 5-1 in the UFC. He's won 5 in a row, beat a, pretty decent name in Shore. I think he needs another step up in competition, and I think he needs a name.
Do you have one in mind?
I'm going to go Sadiq Yusuf.
Oh, I like that. And we might get, I mean, that's about as nasty a leg kick battle as you're going to find at 145 right now. That's,
you know what though? The way Sadiq fights, I think Brito wins that one. I think Brito kills his confidence like 30 seconds of the fight.
Well, here's the thing. Like, obviously neither of us have done any tape study on that, but because I have to think about it for a sec, if it's that close, I'm going Brito because I don't trust Yusuf to win close fights, and Brito has proven himself to be very smart.
Yeah. I think, Brito. I mean, I like him. Did you have a name or?
I didn't, dude. You didn't tell me to pick a name for this one.
Oh, I didn't. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. But I like that one.
Yeah. So I thought I did, but okay. Sorry about that. Before that, Karolina Kovacevic took on Asmin Lucindo, with Lucindo winning a unanimous decision. This girl's 22 years old.
She's 22 years old, and you don't. It doesn't come off in her fighting. Well, I mean, for one thing, I mean she looks young, but she doesn't. You can't tell me she's 29 or 22 just by looking at her. She doesn't fight like a green rookie, partially because she has 21 pro fights now. But then she talks on the mic afterwards. She's like, "Oh my goodness, you sound like a high school kid." Like it's not the pitch of the voice. I mean, she's a woman. It's not her voice isn't going to drop. Just her delivery just sounds bubbly. It's like, oh my goodness, you are a kid. I just went and spent the last week with 3 of my kids that are all in their early 20s, and it just sounds different than talking to a 40-year-old.
Yeah, she doesn't know what like an AOL chat room is.
No, she doesn't know what AOL is.
She doesn't know what AOL is.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, the sky's the limit. The crazy thing about it, I mean, she looks good. She could be a decade away from her prime.
She could be. She is,
and she has like 20 fights or something like that already on her record.
20 fights already, and even her one UFC loss, where it was her versus Yasmin Jauregui. Jauregui is like a good prospect as well.
Really good, yeah.
If they fight again later this year, I think it might look quite different. They were both kind of young, but Lucinda was very, very young.
She was like 19 or 20 years old.
She was the youngest fighter the youngest female fighter in the UFC when they fought the first time.
Yeah, she couldn't have a beer.
Yeah, she's in Brazil she could.
Yeah,
bigger, stronger, faster. Kovacevic was never a jump out of the gym athlete, but she really does look slow. I mean, dude, Lucindo got standing back takes where she didn't even like duck under or change level. She just literally ran around her like she was doing a fucking maypole, stood behind her and took a back body lock. Like, seriously, it like looked like the intro. You want an old person reference, guys listening out there? It looked like the beginning of the Benny Hill show, like something like she just ran all the way around her and like took back control standing.
It's a little before my time too. Nice job, man. How old are you, dude?
937 years old. I am Yoda.
I was impressed. Like early on, she's striking, she's cutting angles, kind of, getting Kovacevic guessing. Then she's throwing these looping punches, landing hard power shots. I was impressed. Like she was landing strikes while backing up. When Kovacevic was trying to be more aggressive later in the fight, she was still landing shots. She got a takedown. It's so hard to say. We never do this, but bold prediction: this kind of person to win a UFC title. And you're like, I'm not going to pick someone to win the UFC title because it's so hard. But I always like to say, like, realm of possibility. It's not out of the realm of possibility that she wins the title.
Absolutely not out of the realm of possibility. And at her age, the one thing I'd be kind of looking at as a concern, like, is she so big that I'm worried she won't be able to make 115 in 5 years? Even there, she's kind of short and compact, but she's not Jessica Andrade, Ariane Carnelosi muscled. Yeah, like Lucindo looks like the real deal, like real deal.
Yeah. I'm throwing it to the wolves.
Same with me. What do you got?
And you said short and compact. That's what I'm giving her. I'm giving her Loma. Loma will move me.
Oh, I'm giving her actually a step up from that.
Wow.
I'm giving her probably the winner, if the winner comes out like unscathed. Otherwise, the loser of Angela Hill versus Luana Pinheiro, which is in 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah.
Hill's a bigger name and did beat Loma, or Pinheiro is just a higher up fighter.
I tried to forget that Angela Hill beat Loma. That breaks my heart.
Hill is what she is, but she remains a weird, sneaky trap fight, especially for young up-and-coming fighters. And Pinheiro is just flat out a good fighter. Yeah.
Yep. Before that, Elvis Breno took on, and I'm going to butcher his name. I'll try my best. Muktubek Orobai.
You said it better than Buffer did. I'll give it. I'll give that an A-.
With Orobai winning a unanimous decision. We almost had a moment of what I'm looking for. A moment of suspense, they say, when Orobai grabbed the fence and got deducted a point. Thought maybe we could have a draw because he clearly won the first 2 rounds, but then he came on strong late in the third and secured it. Didn't matter anyways. I love the referee took a point from him immediately.
Love it. Fernando Portela goes on my Christmas card list if I had one, because you and I are both in general, I think, in favor of quicker and sterner enforcement of the rules, but specifically in the case of fence grabs, I am down with deducting a point for the first fence grab, because unlike eye pokes and groin strikes, they don't happen by accident, and they're almost always fight altering.
Yeah, it could be instinctive, like you're naturally going down, you're like, oh shit, I want to go down, but you grab, but like like I can't grab this. But I go further than you. No, the problem with taking away points is it increases the chances of draws, and I don't want to see a draw. But this is just me. I wish they changed the rules. If it's a 3-round fight and then a draw, okay, we're fighting a 4th round. We're going to overtime. That's how I feel. But hopefully that's something that'll change in the future. When the Shillan and Duffy open up our own MMA organization, I'll push for that to be one of our rules. But I'm even further. If a fence grab keeps you from losing position, I think if you're getting taken down, say you're going against Alexandre Pantoja, like if I'm a big time striker, I'm no cop, I want to stay on the feet no matter what. Grab the fence. Yeah, I'll give you a point, then get taken down. I think you should get a point taken and put on the ground.
I have a problem with that because that does feel to me like the ref inserting themselves into the fight in a different way, because that's operating on the assumption that the takedown attempt would have been successful. I'm good deducting a point. And Adam Duffy asked, did they even separate them when the fence grab? They didn't, and they shouldn't. Like they shouldn't separate them. It's just he holds up a finger, says, I'm deducting a point, fence grabbing. If he does it again in the same sequence, you deduct 2 points.
Yeah.
Third time it's a disqualification.
Yeah. My only argument is if you don't put it in the ground, and I might get one chance to get to the ground. You just stop that one chance. And all of a sudden now you break away and knock me out 30 seconds later. You actually, yeah, all right, cool. Thanks for taking that 1 point. Like, it doesn't matter anymore because I'm unconscious. Like you might only have that one chance. Or vice versa. Like, what if you're at the bottom and you grab the fence and pull yourself up? Do you put it back down?
Yes.
Okay. Could they started there?
Yeah.
I just saying, like, grab the fence. Like,
yeah. There was a lot of slop about this fight. Like, my note on this was a lightweight heavyweight fight. Like, just so many things about this fight reminded me of things you see in heavyweight fights. Like, both guys were like sucking wind by the end of the fight. Like, it looked like a heavyweight fight that way. We had Orlby just stand up out of side control like a prime Derek Lewis or Mark Hunt or something, that you don't usually see at lightweight. Because usually the fighter on top is better positionally than Brenner was. I mean, it was a lot of fun, but it was the kind of fight that didn't leave me higher on either guy. I still think they're both solid prospects, but neither guy just took a step forward and pushed everything out of the way and said, I'm the fucking man at 155.
Well, I like Albai a lot. I'll say this. I think a lot of his fights are going to look like tiring, and I think that style of fight is going to just draw. Like, you fight him, you wrestle him for 15 minutes, you're going to be tired. He's going to be tired. He's going to win those fights. So I think that'll happen a lot. And he's going to win. He's going to beat good guys that normally don't look gassed. I think some of that had to do with the environment. And they're in Brazil, and supposedly it was really hot in there. And dude's wrestling is off the charts, though. I mean, he can wrestle and wrestle and wrestle. And I think that alone could, I don't want to say a contender, but it's going to push him to the higher half of the division. My concern is he's got decent hands. Like, he hurt Brenner a couple times. He needs to have, I thought D. Thomas hit it like perfectly. He needs to have more confidence, because it was 2 times he had Brenner hurt bad, especially the second round. I mean, at one point he shoots for a takedown. Like, why are you shooting for a takedown? Just throw like a 3-punch combination. The fight's probably over. And he's looking to wrestle, and I was like, wow, that was terrible. So I'm going to give everybody a step. Like, I don't know if it's a step up competition, but a guy who's kind of on a win streak. I think him and Mike Davis would be fun.
I like that just fine. I'm looking at a particular card a couple weeks from now where there are 2 lightweight fights. In fact, they're back-to-back in the order. Terrence McKinney versus Esteban Ribovics, and Diego Ferreira versus Mateus Rebeski. Give me one of the winners of that. Just whoever comes out looking good, doesn't have some sort of injury that's going to keep him on the shelf for 6 months. Give me Orlby versus one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine Terrence McKinney. Like, I just picture like only 2 outcomes in that fight. McKinney starches him immediately, or Orlby just turns him into a takedown dummy and gasses him and finishes it. Like, McKinney completely gassed 3 minutes into the fight.
Completely agree.
But I guess in fairness, that's all McKinney's fights. So
that's all McKinney's fights.
Like, to me, the Orlby is a guy who can, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, what's the word? Like make it bigger. I don't know.
Yeah, like that dynamic would be amplified against a guy like Orlby.
Expose it even more.
But I mean, Ribovics is another guy that, he actually reminds me of Brenner a little bit. Diego Ferreira, I thought was on his way to being washed, but he kind of turned the clock back in his last fight. He's a guy that might be able to challenge Orlby's wrestling a little bit, or at least make him think twice about wrestling because he's such a good grappler. Like, it just one of those dudes would be an interesting next matchup.
Before that, Jakar Close took on Joaquin Silva, your boy, Neto BJJ, with Jakar Close winning a unanimous decision. This was probably the worst commentary when DC and Felder were like, DC was like, dude, Jakar Close clearly won, and like Phil's like, yeah, I think he did, but Silva did land like one good punch in seconds. Like, that was an easy round for Jakar Close, just because he landed a one punch that made like didn't even hurt Close. Like, Close took a step back and said, "Oh, okay, that was a pretty good punch." Like, that doesn't win you the round.
Yeah, I thought it was a really, really straightforward rounds 1 and 2 for Close, round 3 for Silva. Close looked maybe to be getting a little tired late in the fight, but wasn't. I mean, he was never in danger of getting finished.
I'll say this: Close is a guy. He's like he was using pressure well. He was measuring his shots well, but he's not a guy that like anything really jumps off the page. You know, like what he's good at.
No.
And then I realized, you know what he's good at? Winning. The guy just knows how to win.
He has a perfect name for that. Close. Like if it's close, he's going to do pretty well.
He's going to win. That'll be JJ. I mean, he's too patient. He's trying to land one big shot. He didn't even get going into the third round. He was forced on his back foot for 10 minutes or 9 minutes or something like that before he even started going. About 1 minute left in the second is when he started like throwing punches himself and really kind of committing and trying to win the fight. He almost did with the guillotine. I'll say this about Drakkar Klose. You know, DC was talking about like how dumb it was. You know, throw yourself on your back and get mounted. And yeah, it was, but he had a deep guillotine that forced Neto to hit his face flat on the mat.
Yeah, that was
if he knocked him out, he would have won $50,000. It would have been probably knocked out of the air.
Yeah, it would have been like basically the inverse Rampage versus Arona.
Yeah, and he hit his face.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like this. Like you're holding onto it. If I throw myself back, either your face is going to hit or you got to let go to brace yourself, and I'm out of the guillotine anyways. Problem is, his face hit, didn't knock him out, and then he was mounted. So it was like, you know, those 3 options. Unfortunately for Close, it was the third option.
That's pretty much it. I didn't even though it didn't work out exactly like you would have hoped, it worked out well enough. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Close is like the quietest, like winning streak. You know, he's only got 1 loss in the UFC, which is kind of crazy to think about. I'm giving him a name. I'm giving him a step up in competition. I'm giving him a name. I'm giving him RDA.
Oh, I like that. I mean, the problem with Drakkar Klose, one of the reasons it's been such a quiet streak for him, aside from the fact that keeps having like long layoffs, is that not all of his fights are much fun to watch. Like in a division where there aren't too many boring fighters, sure. He's kind of one of them at this stage in his career. So is RDA. So, man, especially if they for some reason made that a fight night main event and it was 5 rounds, I might ask for that week off. But I agree that he's earned it.
Maybe like fight night co-main event. I don't know if I want to see a 5-round fight.
Yeah, Anthony Tardif mentions he did lose to David Tamer back in 2017, but within like the last 5 years, his only loss is to Beneil Dariush, which at the time especially was extremely forgivable. So
yeah, so nice job. And David Tamer, man, where'd that guy go? He had a nice run too.
It's been so long that I can't even remember whether he was the good Tamer. There was David and Daniel, and only one.
No, he was the good one. David was the good one. Daniel was the really crappy one.
Okay.
Before that, Jamie Malarkey took on UFC newcomer Mauricio Ruffy or Huffy, maybe Hoofy. And dude, this was a thrashing. I mean, this
was my worst call on the night.
Why? Did you take Malarkey?
I took Malarkey. I was like,
I don't know that. Okay.
Then I don't know why I'm confessing to it. I knew that Ruffy's, is a legit prospect. The tape was impressive. I thought, first fight in the UFC, Malarkey's he's smart. He's tough. I could see him weathering the storm, finding a way to win the last 2 rounds. But in order to do that, he would have needed to make it to the last 2 rounds. And Ruffy could not miss.
Yeah. Now I remember you taking Malarkey now that you're saying this.
Now anytime that the UFC booth and voiceovers and anytime their hype machine starts to say, man, this is the best debut we've seen since Anderson Silva, or this is Conor McGregor-esque, I just kind of cringe. But you know what? That was such a striking clinic. The power, the speed, the timing, the Anderson Silva, Conor McGregor-esque way that he was just pulling a decent striker, Malarkey, right onto his best shots. That was a super, super impressive debut. If Sherdog's year-end awards had a Rookie of the Year for the UFC, that was a Rookie of the Year type performance.
Yeah, I think a lot of it still had to do with Malarkey. To me, Malarkey's style, I mean, this is a guy that he was a high output guy that needed to be able to eat punches and have a granite chin, and that chin is just gone now, and he can't take shots. I mean, you have a power punch and landing shots. And dude, Mike Beltran ain't helping Malarkey moving forward. I mean, he let him take 4 or 5 punches that he didn't need to take. Like the fight should have been stopped way before.
I normally tend towards the other side of that argument, that pendulum argument. I'm usually like, you know what? Let the guy take a couple extra shots. Let him go out. They're fighting. It's it's half his paycheck. But to me, turning your back in the midst of a sequence is a verbal tap.
He's getting like spun. He's getting punched, like spinning.
Yeah, like Riffy had to hit him like at least 2 or 3 more times after Malarkey had turned his back. In boxing in particular, turning your back on your opponent, thing's over instantly. Like you're no longer defending yourself.
Yeah.
In MMA, it's not quite the same because there are other ways you can win the fight other than punching what's right in front of you. But yeah, that might as well have been a verbal tap.
Before that, Dione Barbosa took on, and I'm really going to butcher this one, Ernesto Carrasqueta.
That's actually pretty close, yeah.
With Barbosa winning a unanimous decision. This was the closest fight. I looked on MMA decisions. It was 7-6 in favor for Barbosa of media members. How did you score this one?
I scored it 29-28 for Barbosa. I gave her the first and second round. I gave Carrasqueta the third round.
Yeah. It was to me, Barbosa did enough in the beginning half of the second round to give it to her, but I'm okay with everybody who gave it to Carrasqueta. It was a really close toss up. Barbosa won, but I don't feel better about her. The things I do, I talked about her striking, that I thought her striking was a lot better than people are going to talk about, and I still think that. And the problem is her gas tank. I mean, she really emptied the gas tank quickly. I'm hoping some of it has to do with the length of Gariki. Like when you go and takedowns a little harder on people a little longer. I hope it's a little bit of that. I hope a little bit of like the UFC debut, and because I like this girl. What I've seen, of her film study, I really like this one. But I like a little less now, even though she now has a UFC win.
I'm 100% with you. I'm so glad you seem to have a similar take on it because, her striking is better than you would expect, and I think it's just improving from fight to fight because it's better than it was on her very limited amount of regional tape. But if you are a world-ranked judoka and you're fighting a woman that is 5'9" at flyweight and is all legs. I mean, I can only assume that Carrasqueta's pants have like a 40-inch inseam. Takedown should be pretty easy, and they were not very effortless for her. And on top of that, after headlock takedowns, probably the second worst thing is like forced leg lock attempts. And she tried forced leg lock attempts in 2 different rounds. They don't work, and they made the second round closer than it needed to be because it let Carrasqueta get up and get out. And in the third round, it contributed to costing her the round. Luckily, she was able to make those mistakes and come out of it with the win. So if she takes it back to the drawing board and her coaches kind of go, okay, no more leg locks unless your opponent just gives it to you on a silver platter. I mean, she still has plenty of upside, but I'm with you. She didn't wow me. She won, survived, advanced, still undefeated in the UFC, but
yeah. Before that, Ismail Bonfim took on Vince Purcell, winning by unanimous decision. I mean, this was a fight that I'm heading into. We really thought this was a bad stylist matchup. I mean, big difference in age. Bonfim was much faster. I love the variety of striking. He was one of those. He got the lead, and then it just started. Every minute they go on, they just kept extending it further and further out. I liked some of the things he was doing, and from a technical sense, I really liked. He looked really intelligent. Like he was throwing punches at Purcell in combination. Then he'd end the combination with a wide hook to one, either left or the right side, trying to get Purcell, trying to hit him when he was like escaping from the exchanges, which was something really funny. He did land it a couple times, and then with the way he later on he hurt Purcell in the third with a nice. Purcell kept like trying to hand fight, and he just went right around like where his hands were going to be. Like he looks fainted with the right hand, so Purcell would come up and then come around with the left hook. I thought it was he beat Vince Purcell, but I thought it was a pretty good showing from Bonfim.
Completely agreed. He was expected to beat Purcell. He was a massive favorite, and in something that we'll probably talk about a little later, he did what you needed to do to hold serve when you're a 5-1 favorite. Like he made it look like Purcell didn't belong in the cage with him. And that's saying a lot because yeah, Purcell's old. He is frequently injured, but he still tends to kind of hang in there and be a tough out for most guys.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a crafty kind of guy.
And it just didn't matter.
No.
Like here's the thing. Bonfim, by doing this, made it so he'll never have to fight a Vince Purcell type again. As long as he keeps winning, they're not going to give him a Guida or a Miller or, like...
Well, maybe Miller, but yeah.
But, dude, if they do, that's cruel to Miller. Like, after what I saw him do to Purcell, I'm like, oof.
Yeah. No, but I get what you're saying. Like, that veteran that's tough, but, like, not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before that, in the curtain jerker, 2 flyweights battled with Alessandro Costa beating Kevin Bojas by second round TKO. Costa got a little buzz heading in for a guy opening the card. He was on the embedded, which is really surprising that they followed around. Followed around the flyweight coming. I think he's coming. No, he won his last fight, but
he lost his last fight. He was 1-2 coming to this, but his losses were to Amir Albazi and Steve Erceg.
Yeah,
I think he lost to two top 5 guys in his first 3 fights.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to find a way to get Diego Lopez in embedded because that's like his best buddy. But I'll say this: Costa hits hard, and he ended the fight basically ended with leg kicks, even though he followed up with ground and pound, but it was leg kicks to stop the fight. It was in the second round. He didn't even start going to the leg kicks to the second round. And it was like 4 or 5 kicks, and that was it.
Completely agreed. He's a low-key scary guy. He's big and strong. Like, he doesn't even look like a flyweight. No. He doesn't even look like a flyweight when you put him next to another flyweight. It's not like Borjas is small.
No.
And next to him, Costa looked like he was wearing a suit of armor. Like, yeah, I think Borjas is a good prospect. Yeah, I still think he has a future in the division, and Costa just wrecked him. And he wrecked him even, as you mentioned, without even going to the leg kicks until late. And that's strange because leg kicks are the kind of thing that if you're going to do them, it's best to start investing early. Yeah,
I know. It was really weird. I mean, there was a lot of weird leg kick action going on tonight. Let's get some fun stuff. Let's do the cut list. Okay. So the way the cut list works is if both me and Ben have a name on the cut list, we give the UFC permission to get rid of this person and to add more talent. Though the catch is if one of us does not have him, then that person is cut. Ben, I have 2.
I only have 1, and I came close to having 0.
Okay, so I am cutting. My first guy I was cutting was Vince Purcell. The guy's 41, hasn't won a fight in 3 years because he doesn't fight often. At 41, what are you gonna do with him? I would get rid of him. Are you saving him?
No, I forgot about Vince Purcell. Forgive me. Vince Purcell is on mine as well. I just forgot. It's not like I thought about him and was like, oh no, he makes it. Okay. He goes.
All right. The other guy, this one's gonna hurt because he's been a favorite of the Shillan and Duffy show in the past, but the writing is on the wall. I'm getting rid of Jamie Mullarkey. The guy's lost 3 out of 4, all by stoppage. 2 fights in a row he's lost by first round stoppage. I'm saying goodbye to Jamie Mullarkey. Are you cutting our friend Jamie Mullarkey?
I am not cutting our friend Jamie Mullarkey, and you are not cutting Ilia Topuria.
All right, there you go. Topuria was a really tough. He took a fight at short notice, and that's a killer. Okay. All right, let's do. We have the awards.
We do have the awards.
This could be. I'm interested in this one because this could be a tough one.
There's no fight of the night. There are 4 performances of the night. If you're listening right now, it's likely you already know what the bonuses are. You're either following Twitter, you're looking at the Sherdog front page, you watch the press conference. So rather than guess, just let us know whom you would give the awards to. We'll read some of them off.
All right.
And by the way, shout out to the chat for keeping going the Bo Nickel gag. I am dying over here. Like, I feel like I'm at a concert and there's like that beach ball bouncing around, and like you guys have kept the beach ball bouncing for like an hour now. Among the people they've said would beat Bo Nickel were Jessica Penne.
Okay. Former title challenger. Saying that if he wants to stay in the UFC, he needs to like beat Brundage in a rematch. And for all I know, they might have met Amanda Bobby Brundage. He's got to be Cody Brundage in the best of 7 series.
He's got to beat him in a Hell in the Cell match and a ladder match. And
speaking of wrestlers, I don't know if people saw this, but Gable Steveson just got cut by the WWE. That's a reigning heavyweight Olympic gold medalist who is probably the most athletic heavyweight I've ever seen. If he wants to come to MMA, like, he'll need to sign him immediately. Like, big name, have his debut be in your organization. He could be that special. And it's absolutely shame that they cut him like 2 weeks after the Olympic trials. The guy who's representing the US, he has smoked many times. And he would be probably the favorite to win the Olympics again. And unfortunately, that's not happening for Gable, but that's his own fault. But anyways, just a side note for wrestling fans out there. So we have 4 bonuses. You said no fight. So Michel Pereira, he's getting one. I'm going to give one to Bajalo. The way I really struggle with the Portuguese pronunciation. Doesn't. I'm gonna go with Duffy.
Okay.
And Anthony Smith.
You were 3/4 in agreement with the UFC. The UFC's performances of the night go to Michel Pereira, Caio Borralho, Mauricio Ruffi, and what's his name? Alessandro Costa.
Oh, they go Costa over. Man, nothing for Anthony Smith.
You know what? To Anthony Smith, they're like, we'll give you a muffin basket at your next desk, assignment with the UFC.
I got a first-round stoppage.
But you know what?
God.
I was just going to say, I'm never going to be mad at them giving that to a guy for whom it is life-changing money. It's not life-changing money for Anthony Smith. I'm not saying he wouldn't like to have it.
No, of course.
But when the first fighter on the card wins $50,000, especially if they're, from Brazil or Africa or something, they're always the ones that come back and they're like, I bought my mom a house.
Yeah.
Not I bought another Tesla for myself. Yeah. So I like that.
So there was a girl, I don't know if it was Rhode Island or Mass or someone around here that won the lottery, won a scratch ticket, got $1 million, and then 10 weeks later did it again. It's like, fuck that person.
I mean,
like, you won a scratch ticket $1 million and you play again. Like that if you didn't buy that scratch ticket, the next guy who probably buys freaking 15 right in front of me while I'm waiting to get a Monster Energy drink, I sit there where they're picking out 900 different scratch tickets in front of me. But that guy could at least got that scratch ticket. This asshole who won $1 million gets it again, gets $1 million again. Fuck that person. Also, they comment right now like, what the hell? I listen to you guys every week.
Somebody was about to tip us $200,000. Like, well, fuck these guys.
Yeah. The only thing I was surprised with the awards is that Pantoja and Erceg didn't get anything for like fight of the night. I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's interesting, but there's no accounting.
That would help change Erceg's life.
Yeah, that would change Erceg's life. Maybe he'd move out of Perth. I hear it's not the coolest city in Australia.
All right, let's get to let's do seriously. Do you have any do seriously's?
I have I have more dude seriously than I've ever had for one of our shows.
All right, kick it off, man.
Michel Pereira, after a preview where I said that you were just coming into your own as a true contender because you stopped doing stupid shit, you go back to doing stupid shit. I agree that, yeah, probably shouldn't have been a disqualification, but just to put yourself in that position when you were already kicking 7 colors of shit out of this guy, like that right there makes me worry about Michel Pereira as a future title contender. Everything else is in place except for the propensity for making stupid mistakes at the worst moment. ESPN. This would be the second pay-per-view in a row where ESPN Plus's process is so broken that I've been forced either to an illegal stream, which for the record, I don't do. Like, I'm not saying this to brag, but I've literally never streamed an event that I could buy legally. Just never done it. Like, I used to stream Japanese events back in the day when there was literally no way you could watch them in real time in North America. And I streamed UFC 300 because ESPN Plus was so broken. It happened again tonight. I ended up spending $7 on something that I had to watch on this screen.
Like, ESPN Plus sucks.
Fuck them.
Like,
dude, seriously?
HBO, like, Go is like 100 times better or something like that. Like, come on. Netflix, like, come on.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry.
Bruce Buffer. And I feel like I harp on Buffer all the time just because 80% of his job is pronouncing people's names, and he just continually gets it so wrong. And it's not like new names. Like, he's been saying Derek Cleary's name for 15 years. He said it hundreds of times, and he's never gotten it right once. Here, the other 20% of your job is to correctly announce what happened. And after Anthony Smith got just a sensational upset win, he announced the wrong winner. Like,
I had the same exact dude. Seriously, like,
your job is everybody. Easy. Yeah, your job is easy.
Like, you have to have a like natural talent of like how to like make your voice expand and everything. But like most, dude, a freaking lady just did it a week ago on the spot. Like, you do have the easiest job, dude.
You have the easiest job, and mispronouncing names and getting the results wrong is just nothing but lack of attention, lack of preparation. The funny thing is, like,
Ninja Kitty got us on that one. That was pretty good.
And you know what?
He got us on that one. That is true.
There used to be the Buffer Show, and it was the only show on the Sherdog Radio Network I did not listen to.
He talked about gambling and
never talked about gambling. So many kind of longtime hardcore fans chuckled or cheered when the UFC fired Mike Goldberg and thought, John Anik is such a huge upgrade. And I agree. John Anik, I like John Anik a lot. I think he was an upgrade, but you know what? Buffer is worse at his job than Mike Goldberg was. And Goldberg had a harder job.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, Goldberg mostly called the action right and just, said goofy things from time to time and was probably drunk half the time. But generally speaking, his job was to tell you what's going on and do it in a way that made you excited. And because you could tell he was excited, it mostly worked. Buffer has an easier job and he's not as good at it. It's terrible.
Yeah, get rid of him. If you want to bring him back for like a very special moment, because he's iconic, sure, but just get rid of him.
Ninja Kitty, yes, I am jealous. I don't have the 6-pack implants. That's yeah. Last dude, seriously, my wife, Mrs. Duffy. For those who don't know, she's a nurse by trade. Specifically, she's a wound care specialist. So what she sees all the time is the gnarliest wounds, injuries that you can imagine. So I will call her over when there are severe injuries, broken bones, bad cuts, people that get so knocked out that they're, smelling salts knocked out. And it usually doesn't phase her. No, she is pretty awesome. She swears more than me. Like, your wife never swears. Mine swears more than me. But
all right.
And she'll come over and she's usually pretty nonchalant because and will give me knowledge. Like, okay, because his toes are pointing like that, this is the part of his brain that got concussed. I told her to come over and look at the end of the Joe Anderson Brito Jack Shore fight. I was like, this dude's leg like filled up with blood, and then it kind of popped. Like his shin basically did what Joanna Jędrzejczyk's face did a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And she came over and was all beyond unimpressed. She like no sold it. She's like, well, that wasn't much. That's just some blood. And he stuck his finger in there. Like I was expecting for it to pop like a water balloon full of blood. So I just, all right, go away, honey. And tomorrow I'm going to make her watch Kimbo versus James Thompson.
There you go.
Yeah, those are mine.
I want someone to get shot in the face this week, so she can look at that.
Well, I imagine her counterpart, up there in Rhode Island did.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she's seen worse than I have. Yeah, I got a couple. You already talked about people comparing Ruffy to McGregor, so I'll take that one out. But how about Jakar Close calling out DC for bashing him for on the weigh-in show, and then DC backing out like, I didn't say anything, dude. Seriously, he called you, and then he did back. He did it again. He called out. He's like, oh, then when you diss me, and he said it again. I'm like, yeah, dude, DC, you're a former champ. Come on, I think you can take Jakar Close. Don't back down, man.
He's just such a nice guy.
Yeah. This is going back to the weigh-ins. Did anybody check out the Nova União, Charles Oliveira helping Elvis Brenner cut weight, and he's in the like little makeshift sauna, like cuddling us? Like, dude, serious? What the hell was that? Did you see it?
I did not see it.
Yeah, but something must be lost. It was a weird. I don't know, dude. Seriously. UFC not allowing Michelle Pereira to when he's walking out to dance. Like, dude, seriously. And I want to add another dude seriously on the fly. Did not originally have, but my dude seriously is for Ben's dude seriously. Ben, you don't want to see my man Michelle Pereira do a backflip in the middle of a fight, dude. Seriously. All right, let's get to the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and the Bears are a stock market reference. Let's keep it negative. The Bears, you don't want to be on. We do it hockey. Stars of the night, 3, 2, 1. I'll go first. Is that all right?
Go for it.
Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I mean, she's at the age, she's 38. She can't afford any losses. She had a nice little run. Had some people maybe believing that she could have a late career resurgence. You just can't afford any losses at 38. So that run is over. So not good for Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Number 2, I still believe in the guy, but Victor Petrino, I mean, massive favorite, gets upset. Brazil had a really good night, and he's one of the one stars that did not. So Victor Petrino. And my number 1, I'm going to go with Jonathan Martinez. His winning streak is snapped. Go back to the end of the line, your biggest moment of your career, and it just had a terrible performance. So Jonathan Martinez is my number 1 Bear. Who do you have for your Bears?
Okay. I had a couple of the same ones as you. I also had Petrino and Martinez. So the only one I'll add is Jack Shore. He's lost 2 of his last 3 fights. And while he isn't losing to bad guys, I mean, he lost to top 10 Ricky Simone. He lost to top 10, maybe edging up on top 5 soon, Joanderson Brito. It's the way he's losing, because he's always a guy that's used intelligence to, like intelligence and skill and perseverance to make up for lack of obvious athleticism. And if that slips, it's a narrow margin. The margin between Tank Shore kind of worming his way to a title shot and being Vince Pichel is really, really thin. So if that little bit of magic is gone, if the confidence is gone, it's, yeah, like he's not going to get many wins from here on out. I can't remember kind of flipping my internal narrative on a fighter, this quickly based on this few fights very many times. But against Brito, he just didn't look like he was really there. And yeah, he's not Vitor Petrino, where he's just going to bull through 11 opponents in a row just because he's a monster athlete. Like if Jack Shore isn't Jack Shore anymore, it's going to get ugly quick.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. I forgot about Jack Sherdog. That was a good one. All right, you have any more?
Well, I had Martinez
Okay.
Petrino too, so yeah.
All right, let's go to the Bulls. These are the ones who had a good night. You definitely want to be on this list. Ben, I'll let you kick it off.
Okay. Mauricio Ruffy. He may not be the next Conor McGregor. He may not be the next Anderson Silva, but he looked absolutely sensational in plunking a pretty tough fighter tonight. It takes a lot in those divisions, 135 through 170, to stand out from the crowd in your debut. He did it. Like, I don't think he's going to be on the prelims for much longer. So, yeah.
I mean, he called out Islam Makhachev after beating JB Malarkey. So,
okay, that wasn't very realistic, but that's okay. You know,
in fairness, he didn't call. He just said, "Hey, I'm coming," and so they give a warning, I guess.
Bulls, Jose Aldo. I don't know how much longer he wants to keep doing this, but now I care, and I did not expect to care coming into tonight. Even if he found some way to scoot by Martinez in a razor close fight, I would have been here saying, man, I hope he retires again. But Jose Aldo, as we talked about, looked like a guy who could beat all but a few bantamweights in the world. I'm at least interested in seeing him try. That is a big stock up moment. Big one, Anthony Smith. I mean, yeah, it took Vitor Petrino blundering bad, but I'm the guy who a week ago was saying it doesn't matter if Vitor Petrino blunders bad. Smith's got nothing for him. So great night for Anthony Smith. And my honorary number one would be a man who I believe is still in the chat right now, Adam Duffy, my youngest son, second youngest child, a multiple time co-host of this recap. We're going to get him on one of the previews soon, but I was in Atlanta this last week for his graduation from Georgia State University. He was the editor-in-chief of the school paper there his senior year, which means he's already more of a journalist than me. I'm not sure what he's going to do next from here, but I'm excited to see it because he is an extremely impressive young man, and I could not possibly be any more proud of him.
Yes, congratulations, my man. Nice job making the Duffy family proud. Congrats to him. Everyone in the chat, be nice to our boy Adam Duffy. Congratulations, buddy.
I mean, he could be a Bo Nickel.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Man, I should have let you go last. How do I follow that up? All right, I'll go. I had a lot of similar ones. I mean, Jose Aldo, obviously. So I'm gonna throw Michelle Beheaded in there. I mean, eight wins in a row. I mean, I know it might get overturned or whatever, but fuck that. I don't care. I loved it.
But win or lose, it's the most Michelle Pereira fight imaginable.
Yeah. How about this new team? They've been around for a while, but like really bursting on the scene, the Fight Nerds. They got like little props with them with the glasses with the tape on it. They went 2-0 on the night. I know Silva was supposed to fight but didn't get to because of the debacle with Gomez and the weigh-ins and one of the weirdest things.
I mean, he could be a bear and a dude, seriously, if we really wanted to talk about him. But yeah.
Supposedly he got sick, and I don't know the whole situation. But and my number one, how about all of Brazil? Brazil went 10-3 on the night in their home country. So the Brazilians went 10-3. But the biggest thing, they won the two top fights too. So overall, if you're in the crowd tonight and you're a Brazilian fan, you probably, Petrino didn't win. A couple of I think, what was it? Petrino
got trashed, but Brenner and Joaquim Silva both were at least pretty damn competitive in their fights.
Yeah, and you didn't expect them to win. So overall, and the biggest thing, they won the two top fights. You still have the champion, the legendary Jose Aldo is back and winning fights. So overall, it was a good night for Brazilian MMA. Ben, what was your grade for the card?
Gotta give this one an A-.
Wow.
Like a whole lot of fun. And I think part of it is in actually, no, I'm still mad at the having to watch the whole damn thing on my phone. Let's give it a B+.
Yeah, I was going B+ too. So it really did deliver. I mean, it wasn't the best card on paper, but the action, I mean, there wasn't really a boring fight on the entire card. there wasn't wasn't every fight barn burners, but it was all overall pretty good. Ben, always the toughest question. Who is your listener of the evening?
This one's actually pretty easy. Bob Chipson was out, but the troll mantle was picked up by 30C West, who led the charge of just the ridiculous Bo Nickel gag that went for basically the entire show. So, I mean, I know that you were just one of many, but or first among equals, but it's 30C West for me. Killed me by carrying that gag. So yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, dude, how could it not be your boy Adam Duffy for the listener of the event? I mean, obviously he's great, but dude, what he accomplished.
Look at this cheap bastard. He just tipped us $4.99. I Venmoed him $500 yesterday. His girlfriend's taking him to Austria for a surprise vacation that she just sprung on him on graduation day, and he gave me $5.
It would have been really good if you're like, his girlfriend's bringing him to Austria, which is going to be a surprise that I just announced right now. So anyways, once again, congratulations to Adam. So there you guys have it. We have done what we believe the most in-depth recap show in the world. We'll be back doing a preview show. If you never checked that out, much different. It's not live, but we go really in-depth. We're going with Derek Lewis versus Rodrigo Nascimento card. So make sure you check that out. All you guys in the chat, we love all you guys and girls. Please like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff that gets the views up, makes the bosses happy, that lets us continue to do this. So please help us out, do all that stuff. Check out all the stuff on Sherdog. I got to be at a softball field in 4.5 hours. I really need to go. I need to get some kind of bed. So, all right, guys, have a good night.